Welcome back. Apologies for signing off slightly earlier than I planned to on the last video. I had a knock at the front door. I signed off before actually going through the marks for question 9, so we'll do that before we move on to question 10. By the mark scheme, you get a method mark for working at or showing the value 6. So I'll go for green for this. So we pick up M1 here. The second method mark is for finding the area of one semicircle or a circle in the correct number of semicircles. So I'm going to go M there. Actually, a complete method to find the total area of the semicircles. So actually, I can pick up this. Realistically, I can pick up one M1 for that, and then one M1 for that. And then there's not actually a method mark for adding on the original area of the square, but that's okay. And then we pick up A1 mark for 92.5. Okay. Right. Question 10 then. The diagram shows a triangle ABP inside a regular hexagon ABCDEF. Work out the size of the angle P AF. So we're trying to work out this angle. I'm going to call it X for now. Giving your answer to 3 significant figures. Okay, so it doesn't ask us to justify it at any point, which is fine. So I'm going to work at the size of that angle first of all. And then I'm going to use the interior angles of a hexagon afterwards to find out the value for X. So I'm going to start off by finding out the value for Y. Here it says AB is 5 centimeters, and it says that PB is, BP is 2. So I'm just going to change pens just to show this. So this is going to be, if this is the angle that we're trying to find out, yeah, I am going to do it that way. Yeah. This is going to be the opposite, and this would be the adjacent. So I'm going to use the tan ratio. So the ratio is tan theta would be equal to the opposite of the adjacent. I'm going to go, well, I'll say that, yeah. So tan theta is going to be equal to, so I'm going to go straight to saying that Y is going to be equal to tan to the -1 of the opposite 2 over the adjacent 5. So that gives me shift tan, and then I'll type it in like that, 2 over 5, and close my brackets. I should double check that my calculator is in degree mode. I know that I haven't fiddled with it, so it should be. Right then, from that point, even though I'm going to avoid actually using that rounded answer unless I can, well, I'm not going to round that answer. I'm going to use it exact. Right, so I've got the size of that angle. Next, I want to work out the size of the interior angle of a hexagon. Was a hexagon, wasn't it? Yep. So to do that, I find the exterior angle the easier one to work out. So the exterior angle of the hexagon is going to be equal to 360 divided by 6. So each of the exterior angles is going to be 60, meaning that each of the interior angles are going to be 180 minus 60, which is going to give me 120. So X is going to be equal to 120 minus Y, which is going to be 120 minus the answer that I just worked out. So I'm looking at 98. And because I didn't round there, that will be the exact value to that many decimal places. And then we were asked for it to 3 significant figures. So that's going to be rounded to that figure there, which would be rounded up to a 2. So I'm looking at 98.2 degrees. Right, and that's the only question on the page, 5 marks. So let's see where the marks are awarded for. Right, and I did switch pens, so we'll go blue. Right, it says M1 for setting up trig equations to find out angle BAP. And they've used the same one as me, and they've also shown the other versions that you could have used. So we get for setting up Okay, so it's M1 for setting up and then an M1 for complete method to find the angle. And then we have one method mark for finding the interior angle. Interior angle, yeah. So M1. Oh, apologies. It's actually an M1 for finding out. Well, what does it actually say? It says for a method to find the size of one interior or one exterior angle in a regular hexagon. So I would pick it up there. Although technically I could pick it up there or there. And then it's a method one for complete method to find the angle. So we've got an M1 there, followed by the A1 for the answer. Okay, right, question 11. Write down the highest common factor of P and Q. So the highest common factor is what they would, doesn't strictly say write down the value. So I could arguably get away with writing it, not arguably, I could write it in terms of prime factors. Write down the highest common factor. So I'm just debating in my head whether to write it down in terms of prime factors or write it down in terms of a value. It doesn't particularly matter. I would assume, I think, normally they're more specific. And I'd assume that we would get the marks for either. It's only 1 mark, so I'm going to go for the, in terms of prime factors. So the highest power of 3 that they have in common is 2. They also both have a 5 in common, and they both have a 7 in common. So I'm going to write that down, although I'm sure that the actual value would be absolutely fine, which would be 7 times 5 is 35, times by 9 would be 315. So I'm guessing 315 would also be perfectly acceptable. Okay, part B, work out the value of P cubed times by Q, giving your answer in the form 3 to the power X, Y to the power 5 to the power Y, and 7 to the power Z, where X, Y, and Z are all positive integers. Right, so I'm going to set this out slightly peculiarly. I'm going to write P cubed as 3 to the power 3 to the power 3. So I'm going to cube each part. That would give me 3 to the power 9 times by 5 to the power 6 times by 7 to the power 3. And Q is going to be 3 to the power 2 times by 5 times by 7 squared. So P cubed times by Q is going to be, I'm adding the powers now, so it will be 3 to the power 11 times by 5 to the power 7 times by 7 to the power 5. And I'm going to go for that. So 3 to the power 11 times by 5 to the power 7 times by 7 to the power 5. Okay, and that's it for that page. So question 11. There we go. Right. For part A, it is just a B1, and it does say answer 3 squared times by 5 times by 7, but it does say or equivalent 315. So we did guess what the mark scheme was going for, although I was also correct that 315 would be accepted. Right, for the second part, B2 for fully correct answer. Okay, so we just go B2. No method mark. B1 for an answer in the form. So any answer in the form 3 to the power P times 5 to the power Q times 7 to the power R, where 1 or 2 of P, Q, and R are correct. So if you've got one part incorrect, you can still get one B1 mark. Right, question 12. The language department of a college has 180 students. Each student studies exactly one of French, German, Italian, or Spanish. 15 students study French. 45% of the students study German. Express the percentage of students studying Italian or Spanish as a percentage of those studying French or German. as a percentage. Express the percentage of students studying. Okay. As a percentage of those studying French and German. Right. So I'm going to set up a very, very basic ratio table to help me with this. Right. So I'm going to put two kind of rows in here. I'm going to put the actual numbers. So I'm going to put, let's go numbers and then percentages. Right. And realistically, I want I'm going to do a second percentage. My second percentage is because I want that combined percentage and that combined percentage. Right, so let's start this off then. In terms of numbers, we've got 180 students in total. So I'll go total. Total percentage would be 100. And we're told 15 students study French, so I can put 15 there. And we're told that 45 students study German. Okay, so I'm not going to mess around too much. I'm going to work out first of all 15%, 15 as a percentage out of 180. So 15 divided by 180 times 15 study French. Right. That's not a major drama. It's just it would have been much nicer to have whole numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch it around slightly. If I just explain my thinking behind this, I was going to work out the percentage for this one, the percentage for this one, and do one as a fraction over the other. But the reality is I've got a reoccurring decimal here, which I could put as a third, but I don't really want to. So I'm going to go for just numbers. So I'm going to work out this total, and then that will tell me this total. Right, so I want to do 45% of 100 is going to be, sorry, 45% of 180 is going to be 180 times by 0.45. So that's going to be 81 students there, which means that the total number of students that study French or German is going to be 96, which means that the total number of students that study Italian or Spanish is going to be 84. And then from that, if I want to express the percentage of students studying Italian or Spanish, so that's my numerator, as a percentage of those studying French or German, that becomes my denominator. So I'm going to go 84 divided by 96, and then times by 100 to get it as a percentage, and that will give me my value. So 84 divided by 96 is 7/8 times by 100 is going to be 87.5%. So 87.5%. Right, let me just double check. Italian or Spanish? That's Italian or Spanish as a percentage of those studying French or German. Yeah, that works fine. And you can just see that avoided me having to have decimals in any of my calculations, really, which is why I went for the numbers rather than the percentages. Okay, so where do the marks come for that then? Let's have a look. There is an M1 for a method to find the number of students studying German or the number of students studying French as a fraction or a decimal or the total students of the total students. So I'm just going to go M1 there. And if I'd have worked it out as a decimal or as a fraction, I would have got recurring decimal. So they've gone for that first of all. Anyway, M1 for method to find the number of students studying Italian / Spanish or French / German. So that gets me the first one there. And then M1 for complete method to find the fraction or decimal or percentage of Italian speaking to French speaking. So that's my M1 there. And then my A1 for 81 there. And then my A1 for 87.5. Okay, question 13 then. We've got P, Q, R, and S are points on a circle with center O. PS is the diameter of the circle. Angle PQR is 136. Work out the size of angle RPS. So RPS, R to P to S. So I'm after that angle there. We just double check that RPS. Okay, so this isn't too bad at all. It doesn't ask for reasons why, but we've got the diameter will make a 90-degree angle with the circumference, and then opposite angles of a cyclic quadrilateral will be equal. So if I say that y is going to be equal to 180 minus 136, then that tells me that y would be equal to 44. It doesn't ask for the reason, but the reason for that is the opposite sides of a cyclic quadrilateral, a quadrilateral made out of a circle, they will always add up to 180. So then x is going to be equal to angles in a triangle, so I can do 90 plus y and then take that away from 180, or I could just say it's going to be equal to 90 take away y, which is going to be 46. Okay, and again, it doesn't ask for the reasons, but 3-mark question. Right. Okay, so if I go to the mark scheme for that, then we have got M1 R PRS equals 90 degrees or PQS equals 90 degrees. Let me just look at that. Okay. Yeah, so may be seen on the diagram, must be labeled on the diagram or identified using 3-letter notation. So in effect, that's M1 there. M1 for the complete method then. Actually, yeah, because I could pick up the M1 there as well. And then M1 for complete method, so I'm going to say that's the complete method, and then A1 for 46. Okay, right. Question 14, the diagram shows a sector AOB of a circle with a center O. The angle AOB is equal to 67. OA and OB are equal to 5.2. Calculate the perimeter of the sector, giving your answer correct to 3 significant figures. Just have a slurp of my tea before I do this. Right. So I'm going to start by working out the arc length. So the arc length would be equal to, this is a fraction of 360, so 67 out of 360 times by the full circumference of a circle, which would be 2 pi r. Yeah, I will write it. I should read it. Let's just be a bit more technical about it. So it'll be, that's the formula for an arc length. So that's actually going to be 67 divided by 360 times by 2 times by pi times by the radius of 5.2. So the perimeter is going to be equal to the arc length, will be equal to the arc length plus 2 times by 5.2. And I'm just writing those two things down just because I'm not going to, it'll save me having to do any rounding. So I'm going to type it in like that, 67 out of, and multiply that by 2 times by pi times by 5.2. So that would be my arc length. I'll leave it in terms of pi, 871 over 450 pi. And then from there, I'm going to add on 2 lots of 5.2, which would be this line and this line. And that gives me 16. So that would be my exact value, 48072 dot dot dot. And then to 3 significant figures, then that's going to be 16.5. Right, and that's the last question on the page. So if I go to the mark scheme, I'm looking for, here we go, M1 for finding the whole circumference or the arc length. So an M1 for finding the arc length, which is here, so M1. And M1 for the complete method, so adding to the arc length 2 times by 5.2. And then an A1 for 16.5. There we go. Right. Question 15 then. So Alberto, Bill, Candela and Diana are 4 friends. Here is some information about the age of each friend. So I'm going to take some of this down as I go. So I'm going to go A, B, C, D, just so I can start extracting some of the information as I'm reading it. Alberto's height is 158, so 158. Bill's height is 175, 175. And then it says Candy's height is greater than Diane's height. Right. I'll come back to how I express that in a moment. The median height of these 4 friends is 160. The range of heights of these 4 friends is 21 centimeters. Work out Candy's height and Diane's height. Okay, so if we've got 4 friends and the median height is 160, so the median height is 160. If we can't, these two values, no, this value is above, this value is below. We're told that C is greater than D. So one of the heights, right, if I just look at the median first of all, that will start putting me in the right direction. Not the median. If I look at the range currently, so the range of these 2 people is going to be 175 minus 158. So the mean of these 2 people, 17. So we have to have a height greater than that. So we have to have some values lower than that. And also to get a median of 100, so that this can't be the smallest. It could be the second smallest though. Right, so that's going to be the tallest. That person has to be the second tallest. Candy's height is greater than Diane's, so Diane has to be the shortest, and Candy's has to be the third tallest. To create a median of 160, if the second tallest is 158, the third tallest must be 4 above that, so it must be 162. And then to create a range of 100 and to create a range of 21, D's height has got to be 175 minus 21. So it has got to be 154. Work out Candy's height and Diane's height. Sorry, Candela's height. Candela's height must be 162. And Diane's height must be 154. So if I just go over that again, the information that we're given, then we're not told who's the tallest. The only information, Alberto's height is 158. Bill's height is 175, and we're told that Candela's height is greater than Diana's height. The median height for the four friends is 160, and the range of heights for the four friends is 21. So that leads to the fact that we can start by looking at the current range of the heights. The current range of the heights is 17. So we can't have the largest and the smallest within that group. 158 is very close to 160. So it would be very difficult for and it wouldn't be right that this could be the smallest. And then there'd be a value larger than this because that wouldn't create a median. So the only option is that Alberto is the second tallest, Bill is the tallest, C is going to be the third tallest, and D would be the shortest. Based on that, if the second value is 158, and we need to have a median of 160, so A is 2 below, so C must be 2 above the median, meaning 162. And then if we've got a range of 21, and we're saying that B is the tallest, the range must be 175 minus 21, which would give us 154. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Right, so if we go to the mark scheme for that, then we have got M1 to find Candela's height or Candela's method to find Candela's height or Candela's height. So we go M1 there. M1 for a method to find Diane's height or Diane's height. Okay, so M1 there. And then A1 for them being correctly attributed. Okay. Right, there we go. Right, okay, on to question 16 then. So diagram shows a kite A, B, C, D. Calculate the area of the kite. Give your answer. Sorry, my internet signal just dropped off there for a second. Just checking that we're back up and running. Yes, we are. Okay, so just looking. So the information that we've got. So a kite can't spot. Okay, so I'm just going through my list of strategies here. So we haven't really got a formula for the area of a kite. My internet signal has just gone silly again. Okay, we're back up. Right, so my internet signal has just gone again. Hopefully it will cut back in. Right, apologies for that if you're watching this. My internet signal has just cut out 3 times on the trot. Hopefully we will be a bit more stable now. So our standard method for finding out the area of a kite really is split into 2 triangles. For a triangle, we need base times by vertical height, or we need the advanced trig formula, and this is spelling out the advanced trig formula for me. So I'm going to say that the area of the triangle is equal to a half AB sine C. To be fair, we've got two triangles, so we want to times that by 2. So I'm going to say the area of the kite is going to be equal to 2 times that, which is quite handy. It's just going to be AB sine C. So I'm looking at 6 times by 11 times by sine of 118. And when we go for that, I'm going to go 6 times by 11 times by the sine of 118. And that gives me 58.27. Right. So 58.2745 ... And I'm going to round that to 3 significant figures as 58.3. And that's the only question on the page. So I'll go to the mark scheme and we are looking for, right, so they've done it slightly differently to me. They've worked out the area of 1/2 of the height and then doubled it. So we're not going to lose a mark for doing it a more efficient way. Sometimes it's not shown in a mark scheme though. But I'm going to go for M1 for showing the formula and then M1 for doubling the formula, which works the same because it's an M1 for the area of half a kite and then an M1 for the complete method. So I'm kind of awarding it for showing the formula and then awarding it for actually following it in for the full, and then an A1. Right, question 17. In a warehouse, there are 2 types of shelves, shelves R and shelves S. These 2 types of shelves are arranged into shelving units that form a sequence of patterns. Okay, here are the first 3 terms of that sequence. The width of each type R shelves is 2.4 meters, and the width of each type S shelf is 3.5 meters. Work out the total width of shelving used for pattern number 6. Okay. Just going slightly ahead, a shelving unit has n types of R shelves with a width of W. Find an expression for W in terms of n. Okay, right. So I'm going to say pattern 1 is 2R plus S. Pattern 2 is 3R plus S. Plus 2S. Pattern 3 is going to be 4 lots of R plus 3S. So each pattern is going up by RS. Okay, so pattern number 6 is going to be 7 lots of R plus 3 lots of S. Plus 6 lots of S. Let me just double check my head around this. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so work out the total width of shelving unit that has 6 type R shelves. Total width of the shelving unit. Okay, so I've actually gone in slightly the wrong direction on this. That's not going to be the 6th pattern. That's actually going to be the 5th pattern. And it would contain 6 lots of R, and it would contain 5 lots of S. So that's going to be 6 times by 2.4 plus 5 times by 3.5. So I'm looking at 6 times by 2.4 plus 5 times by 3.5. I'm looking at a total width of 31.9 meters. Right, a shelving unit has N type R shelves. N type R shelves. The total width of the shelving unit is W. Find an expression for W in terms of N. Okay, so shelving unit has N type R shelves. Okay, so okay, so let me just think about this a second. So we've got N type R shelves. And we would also have N-1 time S shelves. So we know the value for W, for R and for S. So let me just tidy that up a little bit. So I'm going to say that W is going to be equal to N times by 2.4 plus N-1 times by 3.5. So that's going to be 3.4, sorry, 2.4 plus 3.5 is going to be 5.9. 5.9 N minus 3.5. Yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. Yeah, 5.9 N minus 3.5. Right, if I go to the mark scheme then. So question 17, where are we? Okay, so it's M1, no description, but an M1 for that, followed by an A1 for the answer. Just put that in the right place. And then for part B, we are looking at M1 for 2.4N plus 3.5N or 5.9N seen. Okay, so let's kind of work backwards. A1 there. And then they are suggesting, okay, M1 there. Right, I will do this as my last question because technically 9 questions, but then it leaves us 5 questions to do on the final video. So Caden and Sonia went on 2 different car journeys. For Hayes' journey had a distance of 80 kilometers, correct to the nearest 5 kilometers, and it took a time of 2.7 hours, correct to 1 decimal place. For S's journey, distance of 33, correct to 2 significant figures, and a time of 1 hour, correct to 0.1 hour. Caden says my average speed could have been greater than Sonia's average speed. By considering bounds, show that Caden is correct. Show you're working clearly. Right. So if we think about it, the statement is my average speed could have been greater than Sonia's. So realistically, we want K's max. And we want S's min. I should have gone a little bit further. We're talking about speed, so we want K's max. So we actually want, for K, we want their max speed, or speed max, S max. And for S, we want their minimum speed. So speed is equal to distance divided by time. So for this speed, we want the maximum distance divided by the minimum time. Again, I need to get my T min. And for a minimum speed, we want a minimum distance, D min, divided by T max. Right, so realistically, I don't need to work out all of these. Let me just double check a couple of things. Okay, so in theory, I'm going to leave my speed as kilometers per hour. So I'm going to say that the maximum distance, so the distance of 80 kilometers correct to the nearest 5. So the maximum that could be would be 82.5. And then 0.7 correct to 1 decimal place. So the minimum that could be would be 2.65. For S's journey, correct 2 significant figures. So again, that's okay. So that's 2 significant figures. So the minimum it could be would be 32.5. And if the hour is 1 hour correct to the nearest 0.1 of an hour, the most that it could be would be 1.05. Right, so S's max is going to be, and I've actually rounded wrong there. I've got my 2 people. Oh no. Yeah, so 82.5 divided by 2.65, and the min 32.5 divided by 1.05. And then I just need to do those 2 calculations. Right, so 82.5 divided by 2.65 gives me a value of, we'll go decimal, 31.13207 ... and that is kilometers per hour. And then for Sonia, I'm doing 32.5 divided by 1.05, and that gives me a value of 30.9523 ... kilometers per hour. And it doesn't ask for, it just says show. I'll finish it off by saying 31.132 is kilometers per hour is greater than 30.9523 kilometers per hour. And I'm just checking through the solutions. Yeah, right. So we pick up B1 for UB and LB, upper bound and lower bound, for one of the distances or times in hours or in minutes. So we will go B1, M1 for method to find the upper bound for Caden. So we go in M1. And we've got an M1 for this one. And then it says finally A1 for shown with accurate figures in the same units. Sufficient figures for comparison can be truncated, but must be from correct working, and UB for Caden and LB for Sonia selected. Okay, so that's my A1. Technically, it's not for this line, it's for this line here, but that's fine. Okay, so like I said, I'm going to stop the video there because I think that leaves me 5 questions to do in the final video. So I'll see you shortly.